Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. I'm your host Johnny and today we're gonna be live coding some SvelteKit with Supabase for authentication. It's been a while, there's been some things happening in my life in general and we're leading up to the holidays and there is a World Cup going on. So, you know, the whole world is busy and I'm busy as well. But it's a pleasure to be back live streaming here and I'll see you again Friday for our usual Friday coding and chill. Hope you've had a lovely few weeks without me. I know that I'm in your minds as you do your own SvelteKit and TypeScript process as well. My silly jokes, my dad jokes in particular, I've been getting good feedback on. So let's see how we're gonna do today. So today we have a nice big agenda yet again, and it's all gonna be about SvelteKit with Supabase and particularly using Supabase for authentication. We've revisited this a few times. I have a video tutorial on how to do SvelteKit and Firebase from maybe last year, but Supabase has been evolving, maturing, and I've been appreciating more and more. And even though it's not as generous with their free tiers as Google is super insanely generous with all of their projects, Supabase is more than enough for a growing startup to get going with. And today we'll be showing how to redo this. SvelteKit has changed since that Firebase video. SvelteKit has changed since our live stream on Supabase Auth with SvelteKit. Supabase itself has released a new JavaScript client version 2 maybe a month ago, and I've been trying out. But still, the thing that we want to accomplish is something that we have in our demo site, TypeScript. Check it out, links in the description for sure. And we're gonna have a profile. People will be able to log in with magical links, which is my preferred way to do authentication. But also, we're gonna be adding login via provider, login with a third-party provider like Google, like GitHub, and with email and password. I avoid providing email and password authentication when I can. If the PM tells me, or the CTO or the CEO even tells me that we need email and password because that's how we've been doing things for like 10 years, I try to push back because it's insecure. I don't trust people to manage their passwords correctly. But in the Discord, see the link to my Discord. There has been a nice discussion on why a particular person would want to have email and password authentication as well. And it can also help on end-to-end tests. So we have this TypeScript project that can only be logged into using a magic link. Today we'll be attempting a brand new project without any tailwind and styling and all of that, but just focusing on the login part of the process. So modern SvelteKit, almost at 1.0 release. It is my framework of choice. I've been doing a lot of Next.js stuff yet again in the past month, and I've been missing a lot of the SvelteKit features for sure. Specifically, the type generation and the automatic types it creates for us. It is kind of funny because SvelteKit in general favors the comment style vanilla JavaScript type of types, and I definitely prefer the TypeScript types as well. But the TypeScript support has been excellent. I've been liking it more than the Next.js support for type generation and all of that, but that's by the by. And I should ask again for letting me know in the Discord, in the comments, on any video on the stream now, let me know what you'd like me to cover. I think it's very, very likely that SvelteKit will hit 1.0. It will finally get out of release candidate or beta or 0.001 release that we've been trying over the past couple of years. It won't be Supper anymore, and I'd love to start doing more content on that. On 1.1 release SvelteKit, I want to do some content, and I've been getting your suggestions in the Discord and the comments on what you'd like to see. It's very likely we'll be doing an e-commerce app, but a CRM style app as well has been suggested. Let me know, what would you like to see? What type of stack would you like me to see try? If not asked, I would be doing a lot of stuff with Supabase as well because I've been very happy with it. But today you may notice that there's going to be a lot of Supabase content popping up. Supabase, or a rep from Supabase, kind person from Supabase, has reached out to me to potentially work with them and do a stream with them. They are gonna have a huge release next week, and to hype it up, they've contacted a few live streamers and other content creators to release a lot of content today. So this Tuesday, in between the World Cups, the World Cup games, I suppose, they want to have a lot of content about Supabase, and they did ask me to be part of their content storm, which, you know, if you've been following that, all of my opinions are my own. I never read scripts, and I have no affiliations. So if I saw something, I think it's cool, or I think it's worth investigating, and then saying, maybe this other solution will be all right. But having shown Supabase before, having used Supabase in a lot of projects already, I thought it'd be cool to be part of this. So let me know, keep me honest. If you see me struggling with something, let me know that this could have been better. And I have some names from the Supabase team as well, and I'll try to reach out to them and see if they can do things a bit better for the future. I do think the modern client is a bit better than the V1 that I was using for TypeScript here. I'm excited to try out yet again the TypeScript generation feature that they have for sure. We will be following this guide that has evolved a little bit since the first time you may have seen it if you have been to the Supabase site. As is usual with this project, they do tell you check out this GitHub repo and then use this template, which is fine if you want to get your hands dirty and quickly try something out with a new tool. But I do think in real life it can be tricky, because maybe you already have your prototype, maybe you already have a demo, maybe you already have some code. So you do not want to start from an existing other project. You want to do things yourself. So I guess that's what we'll try to do today. Try to base off this SvelteKit guide with Supabase and see how can we apply it in an existing project, or a project that we created from scratch using the SvelteKit wizard. And with that, talk a little bit about SvelteKit. SvelteKit and Next.js are my frameworks of choice. I do advocate for full stack JavaScript as much as you can, because that may mean that you have developers that can work on both ends, can do backend and front end more easily if you keep the one language. Not that it's that hard to be able to do some Python or even some C# on the backend while also being a front-end TypeScript wizard, but I do think it's just easier if everything is TypeScript. And even if we've got WebAssembly and all many lovely tools nowadays that can do work full stack, I do think the easiest and most performant and most likely to find candidates for is asking for full stack TypeScript. That's why SvelteKit and Next.js are my frameworks of choice. And today we'll be doing SvelteKit because I've missed it. Let's see where they're at. I have talked about Supabase and the content storm, so disclaimer, Supabase rep has reached out to me and I was happy to say, all right, I'm doing Supabase content happily anyway. Might as well do it on this day that lots of other creators are going to be doing content here. And let's see, if this goes well, I would love to have a Mr. Beast style competition in the end where make this pull request or create this project with Auth and then everyone gets prizes. We'll see. It's gonna I can't actually do this out of my own pocket if it's not just a trivial amount. So I'd love to make something like this happen. We'll see. As always, go to the Discord and let me know what you think if you'd like to see an initiative like this. I want more people to get into tech, and I hate it when there are competitions by Google and the grand prize out of like 100,000 people participating. It's like 1K, one person gets 1K or even 10K. Everyone should get something. You sacrifice your weekend and your time. So if there is an incentive for you to do it besides the exposure or the learning of it, you may be more inclined to do it. But that's by the by. I won't read out the whole agenda because we'll just start getting through it and see how far we can go. At the end, I am hoping that we'll have user accounts, a way for users to log in like we have in the TypeScript project, but we should be able to also log in with maybe GitHub, let me know in the comments which one you'd want to try, and email and password, which should be quite fun. We'll have TypeScript tags generated. We will be using real-time security, row-level security, sorry. No real-time features yet, but maybe that's something for the next project. And for my Friday stream, we will be picking things up from there. My goal is to have this be like a SaaS, software as a service starter project. So I would be hoping to finally get into Stripe subscriptions, which we have streamed a little bit about and people really want to see. So picking things up, we'll have a Supabase with Auth SvelteKit project, and on Friday hopefully would be able to say that this user is on this tier, has this subscription, or is on free trial or something like that. We'll try to see how it works together with Stripe. Nobody's asked me to do this, only other people in the comments in the Discord. So you can be that person. Let me know what you'd like to see. That's my current plan. Sweet. So first things first, we want to start a timer, because I do find that having dedicated breaks helps me tremendously, makes me ramble less and make better dad jokes. So with that started 25 minutes of focus, let me know in the chat as much as you'd like. But we'll be creating a new SvelteKit app using the SvelteKit wizard, which they have added dark mode in the comments, in the docs, in the SvelteKit docs, as it looks like. But other than that, it should look the same. So let's create npm create svelte at latest, and let's call this one just SaaS. We can talk about what type of SaaS we'll want to create, maybe on Friday at some point. I want to make those projects real, so I'll have more incentive to maintain them. The Svelte app template we're going to use is going to be the skeleton project. We will be opting for TypeScript, that's what I prefer. ESLint, why not? Prettier, of course. Playwright, I do prefer to have my own Playwright setup, as we've done on other streams. And yeah, Vitess for unit testing, why not? So we can go into this directory, PMI once again. And maybe initialize the project afterwards. In GitHub, because we will be belonging to Vercel in the end as well. So you will be able to click around at the end of the stream and confirm that we have indeed done things correctly. Hopefully my editor is gonna have a bigger print, a bigger font size than my terminal. I hope this will be very readable for you. I've mentioned before that I would love to have like a second person that is able to zoom in on where I am or where I'm looking. Maybe that's a job for AI. Figure out where I'm actually looking at and then zoom in there. So you can clearly see without the danger of I'm somewhere else and then gets off screen. Because I could make this like ridiculously big, but then you can't, there is a higher chance that things will be hidden by my face or something like that. So maybe let's try this zoom level. All right, this has been npmi'd. We can create an initial commit here. And then open that, oops. Open the current directory. We have done streams on new SvelteKit projects many times, so we won't be going over how to do things. We won't be going over Tailwind either and focus on styling. This is going to be all about Auth. So here, let's call this SaaS SvelteKit within Supabase. We're going to have demo project. Too many things to delete. SvelteKit and Supabase. And let's start the dev server. And see what our skeleton project looks like. Cool. Vanilla browser styles that everyone loves. Guess we can just do localhost. And split it here so we can see it nicely. Cool. Let's look at the agenda once again. So we've talked about SvelteKit, we've talked about Supabase and the content storm. We've started a new SvelteKit app. Let's add something to our index page, I suppose. So our index route is going to be in the routes directory, the plus page.svelte. Maybe copy the same things here. And I guess we'll use this page to prove that we can read the environment variables that the Supabase is going to need shortly. So to work with environment variables in SvelteKit, we have done this before. We can import things magically like this. So let's think about which page we'll want these environment variables to exist in. Let's say that this page has a load method. Let's go to our other project to remember how we do load methods as well. So page server TS is probably what we want, and we just want to export a load method like this. So plus page, we will only be starting off with this server load method in this page for demo purposes, I guess, to prove that we have the environment variables that we want. We won't be using anything from the locals. What we really want is to import a few things from $env static public and that sort of thing. So let's call Supabase env vars. They're gonna be Supabase URL. Let's case it probably. Let's case this nicely. No need to super nest it, I guess. Let's just say that Supabase URL is gonna be, since it is gonna be a public environment variable, the client should be able to read this and the server can also read this. It's safe to leak this if people find out where our Supabase server responds from. It is fine. So it can be a public environment variable. And that's something that we won't be changing from day to day. We won't be saying today we're gonna feature flag which Supabase database we're gonna be using, but we may want to change it per environment. So if we're bringing it from the static environment variable helper, it's gonna be resolved to whatever it is on the build step before deployment. It will never change afterwards. So if I build locally or if I have the dev server, it's going to be whatever is on my .env file or in general my environment variables. But then if I push to my GitHub repo to deploy to Vercel, when Vercel builds, whatever I've defined in my Vercel project as an environment variable is going to be available there, so long as it has the public Supabase URL. Now, if you do want to do feature flagging, and if you actually want to switch from like the staging Supabase server to the production one on the fly, if your product manager wants to do this, then you'd be using dynamic environment variables. We won't be doing that today, so we will be bringing in public Supabase URL here. And we will be using the anonymous key. So this one can enhance the connection to the Supabase REST API based on the credentials that you have. So if you are an admin user, you will be able to have admin rights and do more stuff. If you are a regular user, you'll have your regular user rights. And if you're not authenticated, you'll have your no rights anonymous user reads and rights. We will showcase that. In a moment, my GitHub autocomplete is changing things here a little bit, but it does need the public prefix as well. I think that makes sense. We'll see in that guide what they actually called these environment variables. So let's write those two things. And look at our SvelteKit quick start. So they call it public Supabase URL and public Supabase unknown key, which is what we've done. Consistency is good. They are saying that we should probably pick up the service key as well, which has super user roles, which I'd like to bypass for this. The more abilities you give to your server, the more things can go wrong if you have forgotten about something. For example, if I leak the service role key, then people will be able to mess with the database and destroy the app. So I'll need to refresh it, recycle it before the stream gets out of hand. But that's by the by. You'll notice that one of the cool SvelteKit things is that it knows that this magic file doesn't have a Supabase URL or a Supabase unknown key. So it's protecting me from forgetting to set them. So in order to set them, I need to create a .env file and then say that my public Supabase unknown key is something, some URL, key here. And now that I have them here, the squigglies disappear, they are set. They are not correct, but they are set. Hey Pablo, nice to see you here. So that's a nice bit of type safety here. However, if I were to deploy this, I haven't set it up in GitHub or Versal Actions or wherever else, and I don't think the build step will fail if it can find these environment variables. The last time I tried it, I didn't, but I know there is work that's trying to resolve this. So if in your build step, these are not defined, I would love this type check, I guess, to fail the build and not allow it to be built. But for now, we know we've defined it here. So let's show this in our page and say that the Supabase REST API URL is going to be this, and our unknown key is going to be that. But in order for this to be defined, we need a script. And these are going to be magically defined from us. But again, I'll go to my TechieCat project to see how the data is actually typed. So it's going to be layout server data. So the page server.ts, the load method returns these two things. So our dev server is going to be magically writing this. I didn't go to the correct page. I should have gone to anyone but that one. Yeah, not the layout server data. I just want the page data. And then I guess it's export let data, page data. And and that's magically gonna have these two variables in it. So if I do on both data dot, this should be happy and it should appear here, and you may be able to see up here that they do appear. We will need a layout file at some point, but for now, let's go to our HTML file and maybe say, is there a CSS file anywhere? I guess there isn't, which is fair enough. So let's say the p tags are like a bit bigger, so you can see them a bit better. We'll do better styling in the future, but for now you can see that we have gotten the environment variables from our .env file, and now we want them to be real, so we've knocked out one more piece, and we'll want to create a real Supabase project in order to actually get the real variables here. So the REST API and the anonymous key. In order to have the real version of those, we should go to our Supabase dashboard. So Supabase dashboard, I guess you can go to the marketing side and eventually you'll make it here. I have two projects, TechieCat and with Svelte. TechieCat keeps getting people clicking through and logging in and favoriting ideas, just to show the functionality yet again. So as a logged in user, you are able to say that, oh, this idea I did like. So you can see this is persisted. And then if I go to my profile, you'll see that it's one of my favorite, one of my starred ideas. So that's working thanks to Supabase and row level security. And I can also change my username as well. We'll do both of those things today. Well, we'll definitely do this thing today, but I don't know if our little SAS will allow us to favorite things. That's by the by, but we will be reading and writing to Postgres tables because that's what Supabase is using behind the scenes. Anyway, that's by the by. With Svelte is an older project that I started maybe a year or two ago, and you can see that it's paused because I'm not doing any database connections. I guess nobody is going there, or I'm not using no one is logging in there, and then it goes to sleep. Heroku used to do this as well, I guess to save on the costs or to kind of nudge you into paying for the premium version of Supabase. They do put your projects to sleep so long as they're not active. So that's a cool change that they've made recently. And TechieCat, even though this is like on the free tier, is always awake and doesn't have like the slow startup time. Because sometimes with Svelte and projects that are deployed to old Supabase or Heroku, you can have like your demo project and you have it on your CV and people click on it, and then you get a timeout or a server error because the instance or your database was asleep, and until it spins up, then it's too late because you didn't do proper error handling. That's not the problem anymore. At least I haven't found with the tiers, the free tier that Supabase now offers, which is great. And you should be able to have this for an unlimited amount of projects. And let's see. Project name, should I just call it SAS? Generic SAS. Generate a password, sure. But then on my password manager, hopefully not on screen, frantically trying to slide it into my other screen. So excuse me as I type this. This may be my one chance to save this password. So I need to do this now or forevermore. I won't be able to have it. Just creating an account for Supabase SaaS. Let me know if you have a cool name for an app or a cool idea for a software as a service app, and I may use it. So copy here, paste here, save, all good. Not the longest password, like the one password says that it's good, but it could be longer, I guess. So they create like a different one. Oh well. Region, usually you are not able to change this, and since they're using AWS behind the scenes, I suspect you should choose this carefully. That may be an advantage of other SaaSes that provide databases for you, like Fly, in that you may be able to take advantage of edge computing and deploying on the edge and all of that, and have your the server that your users get the data from be nearest to them. But that doesn't seem to be something that Supabase offers just yet. Pricing plan, I am gonna do the free one, which for unlimited projects, it gives you this much, which is more than enough, and it takes like 1 week of inactivity to get posed, which is quite generous, to be honest. I thought it was going to be like 2 days. All right, fair enough. Create a new project. This may take a little bit of time. Let's see if they leak my super secret keys as well. That'd be fun to see. And when I say fun, don't mean quite fun. All right, so here is our project URL. I would love if I would be able to change the name of my project. Google, with their Google Cloud services, do offer this. So if you provide like a unique name for your app, so if you did provide like TechieCat or TechieCat1 or whatever else, they would deploy your app in the project name. So if your project name, which is its ID, is unique, they will deploy it there. But with Supabase, you do always get this ugly unique ID, I suppose. Does it matter? No, because no one will really see this. But, you know, the innards of a Mac laptop are beautiful. Like, will anyone see this? Not really, but still, you know that it's beautiful inside, so you appreciate it more. So yeah, most pedantic thing ever, but that'd be cool. In any case, that's the project URL we want. So if we go here, change that up. And you can see that even changing the .env, the SvelteKit hot reload thingy works immediately. So that's quite nice. And the API key, this can be public. It's safe to leak this. So don't worry, we haven't been hacked. It's this, which is quite cool. And we should be good with this step. Of course, we need to remember when we deploy, we should add these values as environment variables in Vercel or GitHub Actions or wherever you're deploying your project from, Circle CI, any tool like that. Cool. So, Supabase project created. That was kind of fast. Auth helpers SvelteKit is a library that I haven't used for TechieCat that has been maturing as well. So I'm excited to see how they suggest to do things or how they do things. Nowadays, it's different from the Supabase JS app that I mentioned before. We got the app keys that the quick start guide said. So might as well install Supabase JS indeed. So back to the terminal, npmi Supabase JS. I think SvelteKit likes when everything is a dev dependency as well. interestingly enough. So maybe this should be a dev dependency. Let's see. So everything is a dev dependency in SvelteKit. So why not this one as well? OPQ and RSTU. So this should be first, I guess. And let's npmi again, just in case. So I'm suggesting that maybe on the quick start guide, this should have been task D for dev dependency, to add it in here, because SvelteKit in theory does everything during dev and then ships as little as it needs on the client in production. But also that is also a pedantic thing to do. And we've defined the .dem stuff, and here it's claiming that we should have a lib folder with a Supabase the client TS. My little timer is going off, but let's do this and catch up with the chat shortly. So lib directory, Supabase client TS. This is what they claim we should do here. And then we also want this library installed. So that's the library that TechieCat project doesn't have, because I've hand-rolled everything, because this library didn't exist back then. A version of it did exist in a GitHub repo, I think, but now it's matured enough to be its own maintained package. So now this exists. Now this gets dynamic environment variables, which I guess is what we were trying to do in the previous in here, but that's not what we want. We want static variables, which is a bit of an oxymoron, I guess. So let's create a client with this and that. And with that, we should have a Supabase client ready to go in our lib directory. And we'll see how we'll use it right after a small break. So I will switch to my face view and see how far along we are and take a bit of coffee to pace myself. So we're at the point of setting up all the Supabase stuff. We still have a few things to go. But eventually we'll move on to the next step. We'll have a little form with an input which says login. And then when you click, you'll get a magic link to the email you provided. And if you click it and we've done things correctly, you should make it back to our site and it should put things in cookies as needed for you to be logged in. And should work server side as well. So if you want some things to be protected straight away from the server, to get a redirect from the server if you're not logged in, or if you have a blog style app and you want specifically AI recommended articles for the user if they are logged in, you can do this server side. We'll have a look at that, but after we've managed to log in, we'll create a little demo user profile page, and we'll create a profiles table in our Supabase project, give it away so you can define your handle or display name or whatever else, and allow you to change it through the user profile page. Then we'll have a look on how we can do automatic TypeScript type generation, so how we can tell TypeScript that our Supabase project has a profiles table, has an ideas table, has anything else that your particular Supabase project has, but maybe not the other person's. So type safety on that, I'm very excited to try out. And then we'll switch to doing login with a provider, maybe GitHub, maybe Google. Let me know in the comments which one you'd want to try out. Should be straightforward. Then we'll switch to the final option that I dislike, but sometimes that's the spec. Login with email and password. I don't like giving the users the option to log in with email and password because humans, including myself, are terrible with passwords. At least I use a password manager for that, but not everyone does. In any case, sometimes you can't get away with it. So we'll try to implement email and password login. And then we'll switch to, we'll have to add password recovery systems. I've forgotten my password, reset my password system as well, which should be not as straightforward as the provider in Magic Link Auth, but still straightforward enough. And finally, maybe we'll show how our CI or Playwright or our testing tool is able to log in with email and password in order for you to check whether you've actually protected some parts of your app or some functionality in your app under a specific tier of the user, whether they're logged in or not, whether they are a premium user or not, that sort of thing. Cool. Hey, Supabase is in the comments as well. Hello, nice to see you again. It's been a while. And this is a much more Supabase focused stream, like the last one, which you crashed. Was a pleasure to have you, but it was more SvelteKit related. This one we're getting deep into Supabase and SvelteKit as well. So, sip of coffee. I'll ask again, how's your day going and how's the content storm going? I'm looking forward to seeing who else has made something for today and maybe pick up a few tricks as well. A big thing that Supabase has been promoting from the start was the real-time stuff. And even though I have been using Supabase for a while, I haven't tried it at some point. So with Twitter crashing, I was thinking for today, let's create a Twitter clone or something. But I'm sure that's been played out already. But for that, real-time stuff would be super interesting. So subscriptions, that sort of thing. I'd love to see if anybody else is doing content like that today. All right, one more sip. And we're diving back in. So with SvelteKit guide, we're at this point where we've created the Supabase client, we've installed the Auth helpers library, and now we need to run some methods from this Auth helpers library in a few places. This guide suggests to run it in the layout component, which I think is fair enough. And it is indeed what I was doing with my custom methods in the TypeScript project that I've showed before. But for this project, the skeleton project, there is no layout component. So let's create a layout component here. Maybe we can copy this wholesale. So a layout component inside our routes directory should wrap all of our app. So everything will be nested inside this layout. And of course, it should be .svelte, not .ts. So it should be bringing in the Supabase client from here. Interestingly, it can't find this alias, which sometimes I do have problems with because SvelteKit is doing some aliasing magic to default $lib. I wonder if they stopped doing that. We'll need to have a quick look there. So SvelteKit here, $lib, simple alias, and it's defined here, so it should be fine. So maybe it's just that VS Code doesn't like it. Who knows? We'll find out soon enough if it actually resolves or not. So in our layout component, it is bringing in this client. And just to check, if we don't do $lib and we just resolve like this, it is happy. So it just go up, go down. But $lib should also get us there. We'll see. Invalidate, so when you press login or logout, then we want to invalidate a few things, I suspect. So when the layout mounts, it is creating a subscription to the auth state that we have. And if then the state has changed. So if it was anonymous and you're now logged in, or if you were logged in and you press something client side and you logged out, I guess it invalidates all the data that you've created that have this key. It's interesting, sets up this subscription and then unsubscribes when the component, the layout unmounts, which, because it's a root layout, should be never. So this should never unmount. And here, I guess, some styles that we won't be using, but maybe just do the font size to rem, and then everything should be rendered here. Remove this crazy style from the app page. And now of course we don't have a styles file. Now we're back to working. Let's prove that this works. You can see the hot reloading as we change the font size. Let me start my noodle timer yet again. As I said, very much needed for me to ramble less as the stream goes on. And now, according to the Supabase guide, we can create a layout TS, which will be responsible for loading data every time we load this layout. And because of the way we've nested this layout, it will always be loaded. So every time, every single time, this will run on every single page in our app. So we may want to do something different if we don't want this to run every time. But as this figures out that it needs to run, this should update this type definition, and this should be happy. It is happy now. Cool. And now we have the session in our data object. I can only imagine. And here it's saying that we should add a very similar file to run when our layout loads server side. So plus layout.server.ts, quite similar. And once again, once I actually open this file, then TypeScript will figure out that this exists, because SvelteKit creates this automatically for us, and we'll investigate later why we need a different session when we are client-side for this layout.ts and server-side. I imagine because of that invalidation stuff, I suppose, but we'll see. We'll investigate if that makes sense or not. And let's go back to our desktop view, of course. So what we've done is create a layout file, layout.ts, which has a load method which uses a getSupabase method from Auth helper SvelteKit here and returns the session. And we've also created a very similar plus layout.server.ts, which uses the getServer session from Auth helper's SvelteKit and returns the server session. Returns the session as well. I'm not sure why these need to be different, maybe not. I realize if they do need to be different, it's going to be because this runs on client-side transitions. So if your app has already rendered and maybe you've clicked the logout button, then it will want this to run again. Well, this one only runs on the server the first time the user lands on your app. But because it's the root layout, like every page on your app will hit this. So I'm not sure why we need this. We'll investigate. As I said, I suspect it's for logout functionality, for that sort of thing. We'll see. In either case, I think this is going to mean that we have a layout object to use here. So our data should also have a session object now. Is that true? Let's have a look at the layout. So this claims that data will have a data session object, which is null, which may be fine because we haven't logged in yet. Hello, and Super Tuesday vibes indeed. So now that we've seen that, we'll finally get to the point of going to our hooks component. So hooks, if we go back to our TypeScript project, on that one I only have a hooks server.ts. So I only have this hook file that runs when the app gets rendered on the server. So the first time the user goes to our site, this runs. For some reason, in these docs, they have two hook files, one to run when our app is loaded from the server, and then on subsequent navigations. There must be a reason for that, but on either one, they just import our Supabase client file, which has a mutation in it. If you remember, that's the file where we create the Supabase client. So I'm not sure if it's a bit naughty to just import this and then be like, oh, this has a mutation. But that's the recommended way. We can, that's the current way in that kind. So we can start like that and maybe change it up if we think that's too magic. If we look at my TypeScript app, it has a handle method that does a few side effects and add things in the event object, for example. So I would have suspected that it would also want us to have a hook file with a handle method, and then in the handle method, we maybe pass the event to a helper method from Supabase, which injects the session in the event or something like that. Does that sort of magic, because this looks a bit too magic for me. They're both ways of doing it are a bit magic, but I think that's maybe a bit too magic. But let's start with that, see if it works, and maybe change to something that can be a bit more obvious. We'll see. So in any case, we want the same thing in both files. We want a source hooks.ts, and we wanted to import Supabase client. Oops, it's hooks.client.ts, which also makes me note that this doesn't have like a plus at the start, but I guess it's not in the routes, so that's fair enough. So it's you get away with it this time. And I want the same hook really to run on the server as well. So it's the same thing, import this file, which this time magically resolves just fine. Oof, forgot in my prettier thing to say semi-false. Oof, dodged a bullet there. Oh, I have more code, less code to trick. So now my editor doesn't command click to go into this file, but it seems to be resolved somehow. And I guess it's the same thing here. Let's try again to do the $lib stuff. Yeah, TypeScript doesn't seem too happy with this, and it's not really worth it to mess with that. I don't really mind that much, so maybe it's the first here. And we should be ready to do our login component stuff. So what is this doing? This is kind of doing the auth stuff on the client, which is fair enough. It's not ideal that we are not leveraging the SvelteKit can also work when JavaScript is not enabled functionality, but that's like a little trick. Usually you want to do the enhanced forms if you can get around to it. So maybe that's something that we'll try to improve in the future. Not today, because that sort of thing is a lot of work. And usually people just want to get their app running and the login functionality working without too much stress. So this is creating an auth component and an account component. And here, I guess our index page in this example either renders the auth component or the account component on the index page. So let's try to do it only slightly differently. Let's say that our main route here page.svelte. We can leave the session here just for fun. And then maybe we can do a little ternary here and say if we have data session, else do something else, and then we end the if. So if we have a session, let's say view your account or view your profile, cool autocomplete there, else log in. So that looks legit. We don't have a session. Is that the turn that they do here? Yeah, exactly that. Also, interestingly, they get the data from page data session from the page store. We can have a little read on that. Page store. I wonder why you do it like that. Is that better typed? Let's see. So in the example, we import from the magic page here. Does it know that $page data session is something? No, it's any. So I don't like it as much. I prefer using this from page data or layout data or whatever else, because it knows that session is going to be this. But that's by the by. Login should get us to the login page, which it doesn't because we haven't defined anything there. So let's define a login page. We'll do login directory class page .svelte, and here we'll have an input email. Name can be email as well. Placeholder can be your email.com. So now when we go to the login page, we see this lovely vanilla input field. Doesn't look amazing. But it's fine. And we can, I guess, inline style it if we really want to, with font size rem again, padding half rem. The other way around. But today is not about the styling. Let's also give it a label though. Just trying to prove that it's not only with Tailwind that I can style. I can also style with inline styles. How do you feel about that? So later in the stream, hopefully we'll be able to let the user pick between magic link auth and provider auth, or email and password auth. Let's see if we get there. First should be magic link, which should be the easiest. There are more global styles that I would like to enable, because it is also messing with my styling abilities. Anyway, this takes an email, and then we can have a button as well. For login, or magic link. And we want to put all of this inside the form. And this can also have a display block. I guess maybe the font size we can add to the form itself. Font size, it gets it from the layout. But these two guys need to get it inline. So, in theory, well, in practice, this should be required. So if I try to submit, then I get the browser customized validation, the vanilla validation, which I think is good enough. Always recommend it. It will highlight the correct place, and it will look at home, whether you're using your iPhone, your Android phone, your browser, Safari, Chrome, whatever. Don't mess around doing validation yourself. Just have the browser do it for you. And then when we try to submit, it will try to do a GET request to the same page, which is not what we want. What we really want, I guess just for the fun of it, we can say that the method is post. And then when I try to submit, it will reload the page, I guess. But in our case, what we really want is to do all of this craziness. So instead of actually submitting the form, we want to handle the login ourselves, which essentially will be using our instance of the Supabase client to sign in the user with one-time password. This should be what this stands for, passing in the email from the form, and here they're binding the email, which is not what I would be doing. So let's try to do this our way. We'll be doing some JavaScript here, that's for sure. And I guess we definitely want to do this. Form on submit, prevent default, and then run something here. Trying to see if we can type this somewhere. That's by the by. It's also try catching this. I wonder why. It's gonna be an asynchronous method. We are not gonna worry about a loading state for now. But we will want to import our Supabase client from lib. Again, I'll try again, in vain. It's not gonna figure it out. But it should get it from source. It doesn't get it from source, which is sad. It does get it from lib just fine. It's just my editor's problem that it's flipping out. I'll have to resolve this at some point. But in any case, this should be getting the event. And the event should have a current target, which should be the form. So if you pass the form to a form data, newly constructed object, then you can get the email from there and not have to worry about binding variables and that sort of thing. And that's how you do it with like more framework agnostic JavaScript as well. You can do this with React, with Vue, with whatever else, and then it's consistent. No matter the framework you're using the vanilla JavaScript features that we've got. So always my recommended way with those things is to use form data and not have extra variables for email. Although sometimes you may want to do it because you may want to provide extra info to the user that, oh, this is your, we sent this to your email there. So keep a reference to that. We'll see. We'll see if that's going to be the case. But for now, let's say that our email is a const. Get email. And as soon as this happens, we're gonna try to sign in with one-time password. It's gonna pop up an alert, I guess. If error throws error, it gets caught by here. If error is instance of error, and so is the error message. We'll see how we'll actually want to handle this. I'm a big fan of doing a state machine here, not with xstate, not with anything too fancy. But you may remember that I like saying that we have state variable that can be idle, submitting, or error, and done, I guess. And it starts as idle. And we can also have this as a type. That my form state is one of these things, and let state be this. So in here, when the form is submitted, then we can say that the state becomes submitted, and else. Do I want the finally? No. So if it cuts there, and I actually want my state to be this error. So if error is instance of error, then I want my state to be error. Else state new error. Some weird autocomplete. This change needs to be done. It's fair enough. And if we are in this case, we make it here, state equals done. So in actuality, we can have an if statement here and say that if the state is done, and f and our if here, or let's say if our state is not done, so if it's idle submitting or error, then we want the form to be visible. And else we can say this. So forget this quickly, that's my editor problem. We have the Supabase client, our state, our form starts at the state of idle, it's waiting for your input. So it is showing if it's in the done state, if you have successfully sent it, then we tell you that we did send your form, it's all good, it's all dandy, and you should have an email. But the way that is done is we have a handler inlined here because I didn't really want to type this myself. So if I extract this variable, let's see if that's gonna work. Do I have like a nice refactor in here? The answer is no. Oh well, we may check it out at a different time. So this is our handle login method. We've just inlined it, so we'll get the nice typing that current target is going to be an HTML form element. Here, we're getting the email by using the form data constructor with the form element. So we get the email, and then our state becomes submitting because we hit our Supabase client to say sign in with one-time password. We pass this email there, which behind the scenes Supabase should be sending an email to that user according to a template we can configure afterwards. If that errors out, then it goes into the catch block, but also this method may return with an error. So if it does return with an error, then we throw it in order to get into this block yet again. So the error block sets the state to the error, which we may want to display here. So if, this is where I regret having a small keyboard, 65%, I think 70% or TLS, 10 key less keyboard would be ideal. This is super cute, but just a bit small. So if instance of state, actually this is how you use this. So if state is instance of error, then we can have a little paragraph here with error message, which may be that there was a problem submitting the form. State, sorry. So if something went wrong here, then we'll have a little error message down here. If not, we get to the done state, in which case we just say that you should check your inbox for an email, which is great. Let's see if it works. Looks like it worked. I will check my inbox now. And I do get a confirm your sign up email that goes to localhost. And if I click it, I wonder if anything happens. It looks like something has magically happened. So maybe we've just done it. So if I go into here, just in order for you to not see my emails, I've clicked the email on screen. Off screen, but you'll have to trust me that I clicked and suddenly we have a session object, and that means that we can go to our profile page. But just to check, we have a session which is object. We can stringify it on our main page. It's not going to have anything public, I trust, so it should be fine. So it has our expiry, it has that we're authenticated, the provider is email, which I guess is the same, no matter if it's like the one-time password magic email way, or if I've done email and password. Providers, it's email, user metadata, nothing, the role is authenticated, I don't know what this is, a method is one-time password, so that's cool to know, and I guess this is exactly when this happened. We don't really care too much about what is in the session. The expiry is interesting, and if I refresh the page, I can see that this does an auto expiry, and it expires in 3500 or 3595, 92. So in this many seconds, I wonder. I think they do something for automatic refresh, and you need to turn it off if you don't want that to happen. But that's by the by. We have the access token, which will expire at some point, and I think we'll have like a refresh token as well. Yes. So we have a refresh token to exchange at some point. Maybe if the expiry is soon in the future, we can use this to create a new session as well. Can I authenticate against an active directory with single sign-on? Marcel asks. I do know that we'll try to log in with single sign-on. Well, not really. So, Marcel, are you talking about logging in with like Okta or something like that? A single sign-on type of situation like that? I'm not sure. Yeah, if that's something that's provided. Maybe if Supabase is still in the chat, feel free to reply to that. I think you're talking about the Okta style solution, which I haven't played with. What we will be playing with right after is logging in with GitHub or one of those third-party providers. But if you've already logged in with something else like Okta, then just click here and sign on. I don't know if they have that, but maybe Supabase can correct me. I'm just searching the docs for single sign-on, Active Directory, and SSO, and I get no results. So I suspect that they don't have it. But I'm not sure. Great question though. I think we're in the 25-minute mark. Oh, Stoyan, thanks a bunch for being in the comments and jumping in. So, SSO with Active Directory, something like Okta, I imagine I was at least right about that. It's very actively worked on, but won't be available this year. The year ends this month, so that's not too bad. We're aiming for a public beta launch late this month or in January. Wow. So that's great news. I know that one of the great things of working freelance and not working with a company is not having to install like Okta and like a million other things. But it's a big change from how it used to be a few years ago. If you do have Okta in the company and you only need to log into Okta and then automatically you're signed on everywhere else, that's amazing. So I can see how bigger companies would want that functionality quite a lot. I think that's actually tremendous now that I think about it. Single sign-on has made working inside companies much better. Whenever I didn't have it, I did miss it. So yeah, just a quick face view. What we have done now is log in with the magic link. We will deploy this at some point, but just to share my screen now, we have managed to log in here. I wonder if our quick start has a logout sign out functionality. It has it here in a different form. In the profile, I guess we will add it shortly. But I suspect what this does is add to the cookies a Supabase Auth token. So if we nuke this, then we'll be logged out without having to click or implement a button. These two things are from the other apps that we have, so I can just delete them. Don't worry about them. So cookies only. If I nuke it, then we're not logged in. We can click here and add our email. Send the magic link. Takes a while, so if it's in the loading process, we can add a little spinner and stuff like that. So that could be the thing to change, and then I get a link to follow my email client. You can see that it's going to be this. So you go back to your Supabase REST API with a token. I suppose it says that it's going to be a magic link and then redirects you back to wherever you came from. There should be a list somewhere to specify where you're coming in. Did I click too late? I guess. Maybe I copied the wrong one. Now I have to wait. Happens. But it's nice to see that the error we get back is here. I guess you can scan for something like for security purposes or for this exact test. The text, and then provide your own message if you think that's a bit too blunt. Or I've already sent you an email, something like that. I'm gonna follow the link here, just for speed's sake. And then, because the browser that I'm opening this link is the same one, it's just in a different window, I do get the cookies correctly. I am correctly authenticated. So we'll want some functionality to show a profile page if we want, if we are logged in, and actually redirect from the login page somewhere else. So you shouldn't be able to re-log in, I guess. You should log out first. So maybe login should redirect us to the profile page. That's a fair point. So maybe that's the thing that we would be doing next. Let's do the user profile. That's fun. So we are saying that if we are logged in, now we don't really need the proof that we have the session here. We can just say view your profile if we are logged in. And then we click view your profile. We don't have that page yet. Let's create it. Let's create routes profile. And we want a plus page.svelte. And then maybe this has an h1 for profile, your profile, according to the brand guidelines for what language you want to use here. And I guess eventually we'll have your display name be something, but we'll figure out what that's going to be at some point. But we also want to have a logout button. Let's see how our start guide has done it, and let's start a timer as well. One more 25-minute timer. So here it just has a button that does an onclick that calls the signout method, which is a bit naughty. It uses the Supabase client yet again, which I suspect causes that invalidation we've seen on the layout and those hooks to run again, which is quite interesting. But this also reminds me that the login page, let's say that the button is disabled if our state equals submitted. So we are submitted already. We don't want to keep spamming the login button. And we can use this submitting state, this equality check, to show a spinner or something like that as well. But what we want is the profile page, and we want a logout button, and might as well put it in a form once again. And again, we won't be doing it with enhanced SvelteKit forms. We'll see if that's possible later on. But I do want to open my login form, just to copy what we've done. I guess nothing much. I was being too lazy here, I think. So on submit, prevent default, do something, maybe async, but it's gonna have a button saying logout. And then if we press the button, something happens. What happens is, again, it's typing it in, it's putting it in a try catch. So let's try to inline it yet again. We do want a script, blank TypeScript. We want to copy our states again. Maybe we want to call it logout form. And here we want to bring in Supabase from $lib again. It doesn't know what Supabase is, which is my biggest worry. Like, not only can it not find it, but it doesn't know what this is, which is upsetting. Do I need to add it here? I would expect that the Svelte config here would be setting up this lib alias here, maybe in paths. it's going to be like a short tangent. So it says here you need to run npm run dev to generate the automatic configuration, which I have done. Because the default should be this. Oh well, that's something to do back another time. It's Supabase first in this stream. So let's have a look again at our profile page, and here state is going to be submitted, and then at the end, I guess we should somehow make it to the main page or the login page. So we'll see how that works. But no finalies. We are going to do state looks done. And again, taking inspiration from what we've just done in the login page. Catch the error and do all of this. Let's say there was a problem logging you out. So this should just run, and some of the auth helper magic, I suppose, that we created in our layout file and the hooks middleware should take us out of this page. Let's see. Press the lookup button. Did anything happen? Maybe if I refresh, I guess I'm not protecting this route. So if I go back to the home page, maybe that's where we'll see what has happened. Yeah, so it looks like I'm back to being not logged in. So let's try again. We'll need to do this a couple times. It would be cool if we had something watching for our auth state here and get the subscription update that we were logged in and therefore automatically gets us to the profile page or somewhere else instead of being stuck on that page. But I guess what would be nice to see now is to confirm that we have this Supabase token, and clicking logout should be the thing that destroys it. So eventually you get logged out. But you should also not be in the profile page because you don't have a profile. So what should we do? Let's check if our example, if our guide, quick start guide from Supabase has something about redirect, or else I guess we need to figure it out ourselves. We have the Supabase auth helpers somewhere. Let's see. I wonder if it has something extra. About protecting routes, typings, blah blah blah. Interesting. So protecting API routes. This may be where we're at. Interesting. So they have like a server hook that will protect everything that starts with protected posts. That's kind of clever. But that's not quite what we want. We want to protect a single page. I suspect this may be what we want to do. Can't we do the redirect here? Guess this will run in the client or the server, whatever it wants. So it should be fine. And the HTTP code for 303. See other. So not really see other. We want 4.3 or 4.1. Authorized. Either one. So let's take inspiration from this. And they actually have it in the profile page as well. So and I don't think we need this. Oh, we do. We need all of this. It says that this will appear now. Plus page.ts. Then our types file will create this. Now it's happy. We don't really want a Supabase client, but we do want a session from the event. And if no session, let's say that we redirect to the login page. And then we do nothing. Maybe we have the user from the session. Maybe profile, and we say display name Johnny. Email is gonna be, maybe don't show the email, or maybe do. Should always have the email, right? Anyway, let's not do it. Let's hard code the display name and show it here and in this. And we can say that in here, let data, page data, or is it page load data? We used it in here, page data. We can say that display name is data profile display name. So now I'm hoping if I try to go to the profile page, I get redirected to the login page immediately, which is quite cool. So you can see here, I try to go to profile, but I get redirected instantly, I'd imagine, not client side. So let me check this. Try to go to profile. So we try to go to profile and immediately we get redirected with 303 see other, which is wrong in our case. So we actually want to specify that get redirected for forbidden or something. Oh, interesting. Right, because it's a redirect. I guess that makes sense. I stand corrected. Is really the other the best one? I guess it makes sense because it's not permanent. It's just because you're not authorized to see this. But we don't want to hard crash. That's why we're trying to redirect. Interesting. I may have a question afterwards on why we went with that. But it is by the by. In any case, if I do put in my email here, it should get sent. Should get it. And then we can see that I'm logged in, can view my profile. And this page should have been fine, but it looks like we have a bit of a problem here. Internal error. Internal error, you say? But we do return this. Huh. Does it only appear client side? So it looks like this has a problem as well. Irrecoverable. What's this problem? It's happy when we do this, then we click the profile, then flips out. Is it because of this? Who knows? Do I need to make this a server? Yes. Will this change anything? I should have a session here, so that shouldn't be the problem. In here, it says get server session. Interestingly enough. Do I need two load methods? Does it depend if I'm on the server or the client? I guess. So session. I'm trying to think, if the layout already has the session, the profile shouldn't really need it here. That's why I was thinking that it would be nice if this injects the session in the event, like event locals or wherever else has already been injected in there. That would have been nice. Let's see, how else can we access that type of data? So we have a layout file that is loading stuff. Can we access it from another method? Trying to figure out whether this, I guess, it's layout data anywhere else. Where can we check? Because we have the session already, right? Thought there was a way to switch to TypeScript mode here, but it doesn't really matter. So does the event have anything else? That's my question. Is there a nice type you can see here? I'm pretty sure it crashes because I'm trying to do this on the server. So now this is paid server load, which is fair enough. And it does say that this may have session, right? So I shouldn't need to do this. Or is it nested somewhere else? Is it gonna be in... It's not in params. Where is it? Server load event, which has route params and session. Is it in params? I guess not. Where could it be hiding? Let's see. It does have params. Not much there. It does have locals, but I guess that's a different thing. It does have the fetch object method, the fetch implementation. If it's anywhere, it should be here. Yes. Could it be in route? No. It has the parent data here, so where is it? Parent data, it's used. Can I await it? Is that it? Does it have parent? Okay. Let's see if there is a using parent data type of thing. In the load method. All right, I think we got it. I wonder if this includes the layout data, but I guess we'll find out. So session, maybe we can find it from here. And this is going to be from event parent. Await it, and it will resolve a session. And then if we don't have a session, we redirect. If we do, we'll do something else. Internal error, which is fair enough, because there was a different problem, I guess. Profile. Here. All right. It seems like we make it to this profile page just fine. If we were logged out, we shouldn't be able to be in this page. And then the other question is, why do I not make it there? Do I never make it there? I don't know. But if I press logout, nothing happens. But if I do refresh, I am still not able to go to that page because I'm not logged in. We're getting somewhere. Send a magic link yet again. click the link, making it here. So I can go to my profile page. And the question is, why am I not loading anything? Like, do we make it to here? Clearly we do, because we don't get redirected to login. So let's log our session. And now on the server, we see the session, which is great. And interestingly, if I click my profile, this shouldn't be running. But one problem at a time. Where else are we loading data? We're loading data here, and here we just immediately return session, and everything's all good and dandy. So why is returning profile such a problem here? Because I didn't export let? Johnny. I should export this in order for the SvelteKit magic to happen. Whoops. All right, so we're back. This works just fine. Let's see if it works if I navigate back from here, client side. So client side navigation seems to work just fine as well. So I guess that's good. We don't need two files to do the same thing. Let's try to do the opposite thing. So I shouldn't be able to go to the login page if I'm logged in already. So for login, let's create a plus page server TS. And here, if I have a session, redirect to my profile and return nothing. I don't actually want to return anything. And if I open this page, underscore disappears. I don't need to use a helper method or anything like that. So now if I try to go to the login page, I get redirected to the profile page. And if I'm in the index page, once again, and I try to go to the login page, I get redirected to the profile page because I am already logged in. I need to log out first and go through the login flow. So that's great. What we did say is that we press the login button, it nukes our cookies, and then I guess that's it, which we'd actually want to redirect somewhere. So let's see. There is a go to helper method, which I think returns a promise. So after successful logout, we can go to the home page, and indeed that's what happens. Just to stop people from spamming that button, we can say disabled, again state equals submitting, and that's all well and good. So login flow looks like it works a charm. It may be cool to check out whether we can set up a subscription to the Auth status as well. I wonder. We can check it later, like, or have it be a bonus thing, because if I open this, which I'm doing all the time in a different browser, I would want this to sync without me needing to refresh. So I open the magic link that's on my inbox, and I would want this to just go to the profile page immediately, because I am logged in. And if you want a preview of the email that I get, I suspect in the Supabase dashboard, which is here, there should be Auth section, authentication section, email templates. Here we go. So I get this email, which is like confirm your sign up, or not quite. I get this email, your magic link, and it has this subject. I'm just double checking whether what I'm saying is true. And it has this subject, it has this header saying magic link, follow this link to log in. And this is the thing I've been clicking in a different browser window off screen. And I guess I can also use these things, which is fair enough. Confirm sign up. We'll see if that needs to be done somehow. But that's about it. Email change, that's interesting. A password reset, we may need this. But first, I guess we have the email authentication here. XML provided. It allows for email chains. That's interesting. Minimum password length. That's cool. Should probably be bigger. But let me know in the chat which one of these you'd want to do. I'm thinking do GitHub. Seems appropriate. I guess I'll need to do something off screen to make this work, like paste in a client ID and secret from GitHub, but we'll make it happen. Let me know in the chat. All right, face cam for just a bit longer, and we'll move on to another part. Let's go through the agenda. We've managed to do the login with magic link, logged in user profile page. I guess first, we want that profile name. We've hard-coded Johnny in here, but I should actually be able to change it. So let's go to our dashboard yet again. Which is where? Here. And our database doesn't have any tables. Well, doesn't have any public tables. It has Auth tables and other tables that Supabase is using internally. So if I go to Authentication, we should be able to see that we have one user, it's me. And some data for that user as well, which I don't want to be public. Also, if your use case is that you have an app that you want to have closed access or beta access to, then you can do that with magic links. You don't need to do email and password and then create passwords for everyone and send them in emails, which would be naughty. You can actually just invite people using this dashboard. So if you want to invite someone else, you invite the user like this, and so long as your magic link flow works, it should work IRL. So they should be able to access your app normally. And the other thing we would need to do is URL configuration. So now redirect URLs is localhost 3000. So I'm surprised. I guess they blanket allow any localhost link to work, because SvelteKit by default goes to 5173. So I guess maybe people were having troubles with this, so they were just like, if it's localhost, just allow it. So let's add this. And then for real life, of course, so if this is at we'll need to change this later. Can we actually change it? I think we cannot, but you need to add this for production to add the domain of your app. So redirect links to that domain will be valid. We'll need to add that later. And also add it here. but we'll figure it out. Again, let me know in the Discord or the chat if you have an idea for an app, and we'll make that one. It's very likely we'll do e-commerce app, or CRM blog style app, or SOP style app next. I think SOP is leading, but for now I thought making a SaaS app is a bit more fun, or a bit easier for us. It's a great way to showcase Stripe subscriptions, which people have been asking for. In the meantime, I am in lovely Barcelona, and I have heard no noises yet. So I'm wondering, how is Spain doing? How is Morocco holding up? Are we winning? Are we not winning? Who knows? It's been relatively quiet, although I have to say that the biggest screams I've heard when Messi scores. I guess people still love him in Barcelona quite a lot, maybe even more than group stage games. But for today, for like a proper knockout stage World Cup game, I was expecting people to be going crazy. We'll see. I'll find out soon enough. On Friday, the stream will be in the afternoon, UK or Spain time. I don't know exactly when, but should be before should be wrapped up before the quarterfinal games, in case you are following along all of that. Shout out to my friends that are actually in the World Cup, in the games, watching them live. All right, so next up, profiles table. Let's see, how are we gonna do this? We did this already. Let's switch to desktop view and recap what we're trying to do here. So, Supabase does keep track of our users, has a few secret schema tables that you are able to use, but you shouldn't really. And it is recommended to have a special table for your users where you have all the data that you may want to be public. So maybe not put their emails there, but you can put things like their display names, their handles, or what I've been doing, their group or tier access. So you can have a free tier, premium tier, enterprise tier, something like that. You can assign that in your users table or profiles table or something like that. I avoid using users again because internally Supabase is using a users table. So it's nice to differentiate between profiles table and users table. So profiles would be the public things that users should be able to change and access, but the internal users one, users shouldn't be able to change when they created their accounts, when they last signed in, the user IDs, whether they've logged in with one-time password. That's not information you want anyone else to know. So go to your database, and in your public schema, not in those hidden schemas, create a profiles table. So public info for our users. Enable row level security by default recommended. Great, not a real-time table. So I guess if you are looking at somebody's username and they change it on the fly, you won't get an update, but I don't think you'd want to solve for that. The ID, I'm still surprised by people using integers for this, but we actually want to reference something here. So how are we doing that? Let's click this. So it looks like the copy button link, but it's actually the link button. And I want to go to the Auth users table and say that the ID should be the ID, which is correctly a unique ID. So the primary key for the profiles should be the ID, which should be the same as the user ID. Should have a created at, I suppose. Nullable, no, should always default to no. And let's have a handle Should we call it handle or display name? Not sure. But in any case, it's going to be a text field. There are discussions, so should you do it a varchar, because you don't want it to be too big? Doesn't really matter. And I can say that it should be unique and not nullable. And therefore, I'm trying to think, if there is someone that can tell me, how do I set up a database trigger for when a new user is created in the auth table, also create one in this table? That'd be fun to do. That would be fun to do. Because now we may need to do further trickery. But should be enough. Let's say that the ID is going to be your auth user ID created at. It's going to be now. Do we need this? Do we need to know? Not really. Let's just do the handle. Let's just do this display name and say that this is going to be unique. And this is where you may also add like an enum or another type of like role column. We may get to that later. We'll probably just talk about it. So not nullable and unique. Display name. Let's save that. And every day, every time I get a new user signed up, I want to create someone in the profiles table. And that's where I should be able to update their display name. The own user should be able to display their own display name, and other users, if you have the comment functionality, they should be able to see the other user's display name as well. And I am wondering, like, is there a trigger I can set up here? I haven't actually tried it. Where for users in the auth table, when I get an insert, what can I do? Can I do something where I create a new user in the profiles table? So the way I've done this on TechieCat was the naughty way to do it, which is I insert the user as they navigate in the app. So when they make it back to the profile page, I create a new record for them. Or I suppose I should show the code for this. So even here, when you sign in with one-time password, you could make it so after you send the email, you create the row for the user. Or in your callback, I guess, the first time the user is back, if you don't have a record with this user ID, you could create a user and then create a random name for them as well. But I think the best way to do it would be by using a database trigger. So how would we do this? I guess we'd need to create a new function. And we'd need to pass to that function the user's name, the user's ID from the auth table to create a record with that ID, and then a random display name, I suppose. So is there a primer on functions we can use? It's alpha preview as well. Should I not do this now, given I haven't investigated it? Maybe not. Maybe not. But in that case, how would we solve this? We want this to not be hard-coded anymore. We want to be looking into the profiles table for this user and getting the username here. So in this quick start, they did have something for us to set up. So maybe, again, it's the same thing that if you've already created like your app and you have a few tables already, you may not want to redo everything. But supposedly there is a user management starter here. So it creates a profiles table, enables the role level security, adds the appropriate securities that maybe we would be creating. So the profiles table for them has an ID, does have updated ad and username and full name and avatar URL and website and all of that, which we probably don't want. But it does have a trigger, which is what we want. Handle new user. All right. So we may try to do it like this. So let's go back to our database and actually delete it from here. Or maybe let's show one more thing. Let's go to the role level security part. It's in here that if you already have a profile table or something like that, you won't be able to read from it or insert from it or update it or do anything with it unless you add role level security policies, because we have enabled RLS here. So the securities we would want is read access for everyone, because anyone should be able to see this public profiles table. That's why we're creating it, because we don't want to expose the user tokens and passwords and even emails. But everything that we put in this table, including the display name, is public. So it's fine for everyone to read, even if they're not authenticated. So we'd create a role for everyone, just select true. We'd have insert access if you're authenticated already, which maybe we won't need to do, because if it's going to be a database trigger that does this, then it's going to be like the backend, the super admin that's going to be inserting the user. So no one should be able to insert here. But updates, in order for you to be able to update your own display name, you should say that if your email, I guess, matches the email of the user, then you should be able to get there. Although I guess in our case, it would be if your Auth ID matches the ID from that table, then you should be able to update it. And maybe similarly, if you want to delete yourself, but I don't know if we'd do it here. So we'd need at least two policies: read access for everyone and update access if we want people to update our display names from here. We are not going to do this manually, though. It seems like we can actually delete this table, trash it. Because if we go to the SQL editor, they have this user management starter one where it creates a profiles table. It references the auth users thing, which we did before. We don't really need an updated ad. Don't think. Username, we're actually going to call display name. And let's be case sensitive. It's maybe naughty in SQL land, but that's fine by me. No avatars. We may do it in the future, but not now. And a constraint of your username should be more than 3 characters, I guess. 3 or more. Does this have like an end? Just for fun to see if it works. Set up the role level security, enable the role level security, everyone can see them. You can insert in your own profile, which is interesting. You can update your own profile, which is fair enough. And every time a new user signs up with Supabase Auth, we create a new entry. And I guess the display name is unique, but it's also nullable, which I guess is fine. Like if it's null, it's fine. In any case, we insert into this new table the ID we don't want to do avatar stuff. So delete that. But my question is, we have this handle new user. What does this do? I guess they just put in their full name here, but what if it's not unique? I guess we'll find out. So I'm imagining that somehow after the login we get access to their ID, that has to be true, and their full name. Maybe that's empty, but if that's null, maybe it's fine. We'll see. And let's see if that executes, I suppose. Good luck to us. Username does not exist, it says, because we called it display name. Success, no rows returned. Have a profiles table. Has ID and display name, but nothing in it. Great. If I delete this guy myself, I should be able to log in again. Interesting. So that's because we messed up our trigger, I guess. But where can we see how we messed it up? Logs. No recent queries, it says. So this handle new user thingy, I imagined that would be messing up something here. But how do we know why it failed? Ugh. Is it because I should have made this like this? Let's drop it again. I was thinking that it would be fine if I had I think you need double quotes or something for it to respect the casein, but let's not take any chances here. So once again, SQL editor, try this, say that display name is this, display name, this could be one of the problems. And new row user metadata. I guess they don't. Maybe this is a problem because they don't have a name when they log in by magic link. You need to have a provider for this. Maybe. Oh, interesting. It feels like maybe this needs the display name thingy as well. So let's have a look at the user management starter again. Yeah, so this one has full name and avatar URL. So what's that about? When did we delete this? So we want to add, to insert into public profiles, the ID, the display name, and I want to be the new ID and the full name, which I don't know what's gonna be returned if we do the magic link thingy. And we are saying that display name should be unique, so which feels wrong. I wonder if it can. In my own app, I've made a random name generator with 3 nice. With an adjective, color, and animal, so it creates a almost certainly unique name for you. But now, like, maybe people have the same name, right? So who knows what's gonna happen? Who knows what's gonna happen indeed? Anyway, let's run this and find out what's gonna happen. What is going to happen is that we need to remove the existing method, I suppose. Trust this. Oh. So delete this trigger. Delete this function. And now, if we run this, maybe success. We go back here to log ourselves in. They have sent the email. So if I do click it, it looks like it works. So display name Johnny is hard-coded. Let's see what's happened to our table. There is a profiles table, there's an ID and display name. I guess because we logged in with email, we didn't get a display name for us, which is fair enough. Let's see if we can update our email here. Our username, display name, handle. So our profile page. We actually want to get this from Supabase. So in the quick starter, I think we had database or something. Get Supabase. The username and all of that. Who knows what all of this is? Ah, it's doing it all client side, which is a bit naughty. But I guess that's what we want to do. So we want to get the Supabase client here. Do we have another example for this? Maybe we don't need it. When does get profile run here? On mount. So yeah, that's very naughty. Let's do it server side. So we have the profile here. And let's say, wait. Supabase client. And I guess the syntax is from the table that we want. Select. Single. That's the last one. And then return it like so. And then it crashes. Because it tried to import this wrong, in the wrong way. Now it's fine. Your display name is undefined, which should be correct. But I suspect the display name here is not cased like this, it's underscore cased. So that may be a great great time to do our TypeScript type generation actually. Let's see if we can get TypeScript to know that profile doesn't have a display name. Profile should be typed and should have display underscore name. So actually we will be trying to do this automatic TypeScript types generation here. So I did want to do this slightly differently. We have already installed the TypeScript client. Let's see if we can run this in the command line. Let's add it to our source generated Supabase TS. Let's make a directory. Try again. Right, I imagine that it will fail because we don't have a project ID and we don't have credentials. Let's see how fast it fails and we can move on to try that part out. Cool. So the project ID, I guess, is public. It may be that thing that's part of the URL, the start of our URL. I guess it's this. Great. So we want to do Supabase access token somehow, which I may have to do off screen, but all of this is very promising. Let's create a script for it. Oh, I've done something similar in the other app, but it was using the OpenAPI straight implementation. So let's call it generate. I want you to generate this. And let's see if it works the same. So now if I do npm run generate, command not found. Interesting. Is it not Supabase JS? Guess the answer is no. All right. So we need to set the Supabase access token environment variable. All of these are secret. Can I create another access token? I'd imagine so. Let's see if they, or do I need to like copy this? Maybe. But let's check again. I do not want to log in with my own access token, that's for sure. What do I want to do though? Doesn't say here how we create the GitHub token. There must be a place here. So where could it be? Could it be authentication? No. Could be it feels like it would be in the project settings. Either API, maybe Auth. Doesn't look like that's the place. General. Database. Let's do Supabase create access token. create one for a GitHub action, let's say. Tokens, great. Access tokens, we can generate new ones. Cool. I don't know how this happened. Is it? Ah, I see. So it's on your general account, so it's not tied into a particular project. So you can create like a new one here. So it's gonna be this, and I am gonna change it afterwards. So this one I need to remember after the stream to delete. But for now, if I do the same, but do terminal access token and execute command. Export variable. Right. So this one. Maybe I can try it here. All right, so it created something. This one I need to cycle afterwards, but it created something, and that something is something in the source generated directory here. Not a huge file. I guess we only have the one table with 2 rows, but it knows that it has display name here. That's great. And it's display underscore name, not camel cased. Cool. So now, how do we feed it? I think on the one place where we create a client, or I guess the 2 places. The one place? The one place we create a client here. When we create the client, we feed it in like this. So we can import it from our file. Is it? It's definitely like generated Supabase. Great. And then we want to use it here. And everyone is happy. But it's just a type, so we need to import type. So that's what it claims. But it seems like this doesn't quite like it. It seems that create client doesn't like this. Is it because we're doing it from the auth helpers? Huh. That's unfortunate. So maybe the auth helpers repo doesn't quite support the typing. Unfortunate. And I imagine the auth helpers thing is doing the extra stuff where it checks the cookies to see if you have the Supabase cookie and then enhances your connection with that. But it's a bit sad if you can't type it. Yeah, that's something to raise. Where else? Can we pass it anywhere else? I suppose not. Let's look at that auth package as well. Supabase auth helpers. Or SvelteKit stuff. Here, does it say like types? Ah, interesting. Oh, it may it may do it for us automatically. So let's see. It's claiming that instead of doing all of this, we can go into our app d.ts. Inside this namespace, can declare an interface Supabase, but we also want to do the page data one. Let's type the session. But what's the database definitions? What's this? I imagine that's the generated file we created. So now it should be happy. Andrew amazingly confirms that it is done in the SvelteKit way. I had forgotten about the app.d.ts file. And yeah, I got there in the end. So with all of that, let's see. It should have resolved to this, which means does my profile load method now know that this doesn't have a display underscore, display name, camel case, it has display underscored. Not quite, sadly. And I wonder if it's because it doesn't understand the resolution there. But TypeScript should be able to get this. So if I just hunt it down to lib, let's see if it works. Yeah, let's do a quick reload first. So first out. So $lib still doesn't resolve in my editor, but does resolve in real life. If I hunt down $lib the ugly way, it does know what Supabase is, so it should know what profile is, and it does know that it has display name underscore. And then it does get the nice squiggly that there is no display name here. So that's amazing type safety according to the column name. It should know that it has display underscore name. Great. And it's also guarding me, so I guess let's leave it before. I guess this may also get a database failure. Another comment from Andrew. So let's see on the quick start. I did see this. It's because we're using the SvelteKit helpers. Instead of getting this directly, so when we use it once, we should be getting the Supabase client from here and running it like this. It. The event here. And then but what does that get me? I see. So this returns Supabase and Supabase client again, not called Supabase. So now it should know that profiles exist again. So I guess the same thing. But is this always ID and display name? I suppose so. But sometimes I do get the post response failure. Is there like an error object or something that I can check out here? How do I confirm that this is a profile and not failure? I love this navigating. So there is a bit of a delay in the chat, but this is definitely helpful for me. So I did figure out the casing problem, but now it seems that the profile may also be an error. Should I be try catching this? Maybe? Could it be null? Yeah, that feels correct. Let's see if we can look at the docs here as well. From select. So data error, I guess that's the way to do it, even if you do single. Ah, maybe single is something that I've used before. Should always be this. So what I actually need to do, this as data or error profile is the data. Data should be ID and this. And if there is an error, we can do something else, I suppose. Let's paste that back in here. Getting there. Sadly, I messed with my full screen action. So we get the data here, and we don't have an error here, and this may be null, doesn't return something. But I guess if I were to go to the dashboard, which should be somewhere. So we've done this. We're doing this. If we're to go here, to all projects, the SaaS project, the tables, profiles, if I were to add something here, it does update. Cool. Neat. So it does read from here. Can I set it to null again? Not anymore. So, all right, we got there. What happens if there is an error? Do I redirect them? Tell them to log in again? It feels like it shouldn't be possible, but we'll check it out at some other point. And the profile should be this. And again, we did manage to get the type safety here, so it knows that it's display underscore name, not display name, not handle, not username, not whatever else. So that's super cool. We managed to do the typing the SvelteKit way. It knows what tables we have and which columns those tables have. Definitely something to put in our README, that this should be an environment variable, I guess. The Supabase success token we can create. I will recycle this, refresh this, delete this, and create a new one after the stream, and possibly put it in the .env file and have this method actually read from the .env file, I suppose. And that should make it work. And if not, then there should be a message saying that, oh, we need this defined. But yeah, again, this is not something to publicly commit in your repo. So to have this cool functionality, you need to find a way to secretly add this to your npm script or your GitHub action. This one is the project ID. This is fine. Cool. Types done. Let's move on to sip of coffee and finally updating the display name. How have I done it in TechieCAD, which is more nicely fine. I say you may update your display name. Okay, fair enough. Let's do it the same way. Say maybe it's a form even as a label, as an input. And this form we will be able to do SvelteKit style, so that should be fun. Should we input bind it? Not sure. So I'm looking for initial value. What do I want? What's this value here? Default value. And then we need another submit. And then we want something to happen when people click this button. It's an updated display name. And that's a problem that can be solved with SvelteKit enhanced forms. So here we have a method post action profile, enhanced forms, all of that good stuff. It does mean that it's gonna hit the SvelteKit form action profile with a post request, and we need to define this in our page server. Just having a refresher, so we'll need to do the same thing. or a very similar thing. So maybe let's just copy this file. Oh, we have another server.ts. So forget this ever happened. All we want is to also export an actions object. Our default action is what we're gonna run. Maybe if we have things like updating avatars, you'll have multiple actions here, like you're updating your avatar or update display name. But this will also be getting it magically from the automatically generated types file. And we also want to get this invalid helper method. But now we'll do it in a different way. We'll do something in a different way, in that we want to check. We want to get the session from the event object. So I guess this has the event. Let me double check the quick start again and see if it has a particular way it gets the Supabase client from there. Guess not. So I suspect we should be doing it the same way we're doing the load method. Also, I'm wondering, do we just need to do this? Yeah, I'm wondering, can we get the session from here? Let's double check. So instead of the event parent stuff, yeah, we can just get the session from the get Supabase thingy. Great. Let's confirm it works on incognito as well. Right, so we're not logged in, we get in there, all good, amazing. And we'll want to do a similar thing here, get the Supabase client and the session, and if there is no session, we return an invalid, saying you must be logged in to change your display name. I have a display name, and sometimes I crack myself up. The form data is going to be from the event request. Form data, get the display name here. Did they actually name it the same? Nice, consistency. If this is not a string, you need to specify a display name. Then we need to actually do an operation to update the profile record, which I don't have a user repo in this project yet, so we'll figure out how we can do it shortly. I guess we have the Supabase client, and we can probably, well, let's not guess, and say update. Did user by ID. Interesting. I guess you can store all of this stuff in the user metadata as well, but that's not what we want, because we want this to be publicly available. Not quite. Should be here. Modify data, so it's the same thing. I think there is a maybe single way for this as well. So it looks like we want to do a const data error yet again, destructor from profiles update display name to be the display name, and mats, the ID. Session user ID, I guess. Await this. I don't remember why I needed to return the data. I think there was a setting that was changed recently on what exactly gets returned by this method. I think by default now it's like minimal. You get a minimal representation of the object. So returning, by default it's minimal. Oh, by default the updated record is returned. I thought that they returned this to minimal before. In any case, we should have the correct method here, but something crashed, so it's not. Oof, fair enough. So is there no match helper anymore? Great, and nothing returned by default. That's kinda what I remembered. So on the bottom here, no data here. Then return nothing, I guess. Let's see, remove the exclamation mark, update. It looks like it's stuck. Alright, seems like the record is updating correctly. We can check it here as well. If my session hasn't expired. Cool. So thanks again for the support for this. SvelteKit actions, we've done a few more streams on this. The previous streams we've done were using the V1 client of Supabase JS, which worked a bit differently. The way we're doing it now, we don't need the record anyway, we don't need to return anything, because the value will be whatever you left at that point. I guess if you press the button and then you mess with it again, you may get a different value, but it doesn't really matter. Let's remember to do our we don't need to do anything else, I guess. Here it's gonna say like the update, so a little spinner or something, but we don't really need to do it. What else? What do we need to do? So we did do the cool automatic TypeScript types generation, and then we did the profile name and handle change. And then we can do a bit of third-party provider auth and see what happens then, because I suspect we could get a full name from using a third-party provider there. And what happens if I try to log in again? Is it going to be a different record? Does it figure out my email? Does it need to be unique email? We'll see. So sip of coffee, and we'll probably finish with that one. From Authentication, we have a list of providers. think I'll give it a go with GitHub. And I think there are guides for this as well. I think I had one open here. So we would need to go to GitHub and create an access token, I suppose. No developer settings here. It's trying to do it too fast. And I suspect that we'd need to create an OAuth apps here. Indeed. Register a new one. Let's see, SvelteKit SaaS. And the callback URL should be this. And I suspect I would be getting some tokens that I shouldn't show anywhere. So just in case, I'll slide it into this window. Register the application. And then in this window, I'm gonna also slide it in here just for a moment. I am indeed getting a client ID and I need to generate a client secret. And to do that, I need to do my auth with GitHub. Provide a security one-time password thingy. So now I have one. I can paste it in. And I can save it. So now I can put it back in this tab. And you can see that my GitHub provider has been enabled. And we can move on to actually providing the user with some way to trigger this flow. Is there anything else they want here? No, they just have a little handler method. Signing out will be the same in any case. So I guess it's up to us to design it nicely. First we log out, press login. Now, either in this page, I guess, or we can say, we could have a selection since we only have a few options. The fewer steps, the better. So in this page, we can fit in or log in with magic link. Which I guess just needs to be a big button. here we'd have like an SVG GitHub or something like that. They actually need to be in the correct page, which is the login page. And in this method, guess we may just have little asynchronous method that logs us in like this. But would it be part of the same form? Maybe. Would both of them be submit buttons? I think we would. So let's try to copy all of this. And say that we want to try cuts here. What would we do with the data here? Not quite sure. And we can await, go to profile, bring in code from here. Yeah, in this case, I guess the way we're doing things, we don't need to pass in the user data anywhere else. So in theory, this should work. This button is outside the form, so it won't submit this form, even though I'm kind of naughtily using the same state to disable the buttons. Which also reminds me, I should disable this button the same way. And here, if you do click the button, it should also prevent default, which default would be nothing. So let's not prevent default. We get to the submitting state to disable the buttons, and we're waiting for the sign-in with Auth. We specify the provider is going to be GitHub. And if there is an error, we throw the error, we get here, we put the error in our state, and the user will get a relevant message. Maybe try again in either case. It's nice to have. And if you do successfully log in, we get you to the profile page. So I expect to click the button and get a pop-up in here. I guess I transition there. And then I authorize myself, get redirected back, and make to the profile page. So all of this is fine, and it seems like it's figured out that I already have an account because I have the same email in both cases, which is all fine and dandy, I suppose. But there was a kinda weird thing in that our done state also got us this. message, but of course now the message should be we're redirecting you to GitHub. So maybe we have a state of email sent. So if the state, we can say here, quite a few states. If it's idle, let's do this one. If the state is not email sent and the state is not GitHub, we can keep showing our options. And then here we can nest even more stuff. We can make it beautiful another time. The formatter. Can say here redirecting you to GitHub. So if I log out, log in, and say I want to log in with GitHub, it magically does it because I've authorized before, which is nice. So maybe logging you in with GitHub is nicer. And state GitHub is what should be done here. So profile, logout, begin with GitHub, get this message, and you're logged in. Amazing. Do we get something weird in the homepage? No, I must have been imagining things. Cool, so GitHub Auth just works. And I can still update my profile, I trust. And I can still log in with Magic Link. And finally, Supabase has handily taken care of me having the same email and logging in with two different providers. So I think this has more rows. If we look somewhere elsewhere, we saw that this user has also logged in with GitHub. So I guess here you see the latest provider was email, but actually last time you logged in with GitHub. So if I go to the table editor, go to the auth schema, go to the users, there is still just one user. The email has been confirmed. Yes. So maybe in identities, suggested by Andrew again, we do have two providers, but they all link to the same user. So that's handy. I imagine you resolve this according to the user's email. And GitHub has a different ID. Hope you cannot do anything naughty with this. Please do not try. Yeah, the same user has logged in with two various ways. And I know that can be a nightmare to do yourself. So as I always recommend, do not try to hand roll your own auth. Do use a third-party provider. Do use a SaaS like Supabase. And Supabase has been super fast with those things. And thanks for the support in the chat as well. So interestingly, I have an encrypted password as well, which I wonder how it is set. I suspect nobody knows this and nobody can figure that out. But it kind of opens us in to create the email and the password way to authenticate. I, again, strongly recommend against doing this, but sometimes you have your reasons to want a particular functionality. And also in the TypeScript project, something cool to check out at some point in our end-to-end tests. We do have a way where, if I can find my setup the right file, you can see that we actually are logging in as a Playwright user with email and password. The Playwright, which is a browser framework to do end-to-end tests, much like Puppeteer itself, or more like Cypress, cannot go through a GitHub flow, third-party flow. It cannot go through a magic link flow, or if it can, it's just too hacky. So the easiest way to have your end-to-end test runner have authenticated with your app is to have them create an account with email and password. I think that's a decent way to do that sort of testing. And a lot of the important features in your app are gonna be about whether the users are logged in or not. If they are logged in, they should have very specific features. It's gonna be the features that they pay for, or the reason they've signed up for your app, or whatever else. So those are the ones that you really want to test. But we very often do not test them, or we test them in a very unit way, on the unit level, because it is so hard to do with end-to-end testing. But if you look at the TypeScript repo, you can see a way to do this. That's pretty cool, actually, using the Supabase REST API yet again, and logging in our Playwright user with username and password, having that backdoor. So TypeScript only offers magic click to authenticate and have a user account. However, for the Playwright user, we have this. It's a huge discussion on whether you should have a test user or not, whether you should test in production or not, but I think this is a cool approach. All right, so we did this. We did this faster than I thought. What else? I actually did talk about this as well. And then I think we will not have time to do the email and password stuff, but it's gonna be fast enough. So maybe a sip of coffee and I'll give it one more last timer. And get it over with. The problem with offering email and password is not just that the security concerns that somebody sets a silly password. You can get around them not being long enough, of course, but what if they share their passwords? That's their biggest problem. But if they reuse the password with another app and then someone hacks another app and then they've hacked into your app, or even worse, they reuse a super important password and your app somehow gets its passwords leaked. What happens then? Anyway, besides those concerns, the moment you enable username and password login, Then you have a few more pages you need to create. You need a way for people to be able to reset their passwords, because they'll forget them at some point and be locked out, so they'll want to press a link and then get back in. And they'll want to change their passwords for whatever reason. So these are two more features that you can get away with not adding if you don't offer this email and password functionality. But we can give it a quick try. I suspect the resetting and changing your passwords and all of that should be similar with the other day. I can feel myself rambling all too much. In the next episode, we'll see if we can do something cool with our profiles table. And I did notice that there are some examples with Stripe, so that's something that I'm very interested in. I would like to see if we can set it up so people can get a subscription through Stripe for something you provide for your SaaS, and then you know somehow, thanks to your database records, whether they are on free trial or whether they're a regular user or a premium user, and you use that thing to give them more features or fewer features, or to see how much they've used of their limit, check what their limit is according to their tier, something like that. The way I've done it before is by having an extra role column in the profiles table. There are many ways to do this. A similar one, but more complicated, is to have the role correspond to another table, to have a specific roles table, and then you say, oh, this user has role ID ABC, which means that they have access to like these many things, which I do think would be more complicated for us, but I'll think about it and see what we'll actually be doing on Friday. I think, therefore, that's gonna be it for today. We've done quite a lot. We have created this. So we've talked about SvelteKit, we've talked about Supabase and the content storm. I'm excited to see what else has been going on. And thanks a bunch to Supabase and Andrew and the rest in the chat. And everyone else, even if you didn't help me along, I always appreciate your company and I feel the vibes. It's always nice to do these things live. It's always nice to get help, but it's always nice to feel that somebody someday gets stuck and gets unstuck because we've done something together or we've seen something here. So we created this simple project that has a simple user profile flow. The main difference with the TechieCat app, which is more of a real app that we have, is that we are providing the GitHub option. So you can log in with GitHub without directly giving us your email, even though in reality we will know your email even if you log in with GitHub. That's how it works nowadays. That's why I think magic links are the option and you should definitely provide it. Even if you, in addition, give alternatives, always go for magic link as well. And even though it doesn't look nice, that's a cool feature that we've added here. But most importantly, behind the scenes, this is quite different with current TechieCat. We'll refactor and change TechieCat quite soon to get up to speed to what we've done here today, in that it's using the Supabase client v2, the Supabase JS v2 version of the client, which has quite different way of handling things, and I'd say simpler way of handling things, or it depends on how you see it. If we look at what I'm doing in my hooks file here and the Supabase files elsewhere, that's a lot of code that, you know, I made up, but the way it works nowadays, it seems like you have the auth helpers. So instead of copy and pasting some code that I made up, that I have to keep up to date, you can use some official helpers from a maintained project here. So it's not that it's less complex. I'm sure that getting all of these things to work correctly is a huge job, but someone else is maintaining it, and therefore you have more confidence that the complexity is better tested. More people are depending on the exact same thing, so you are more confident it remains up to date with everything. So in your code, I guess the complexity is less, even though it's hidden behind these supported methods. And I guess that's about it. Let me know if there are any final issues you may want to discuss. Find links in the description, click them as you please. Join the Discord and talk to me directly there and suggest new things to cover. If nothing changes dramatically, if you don't tell me what you want to see next, then we will be adding Stripe subscriptions to this app. While offline, I may style this a bit better because frankly, you know, this isn't my best styled project. And OBS is quite lagging for me, always. But we'll get there. All right, once again, thanks a bunch for being with me. I hope you had a lovely time, and I'll catch you on Friday. See you around.